Hi, Kiki. Nice to meet you.
Hi.
That's Brett.
I'm Brett.
Hi, Brett.
Kiki, right before you came on, Larry was scaring me. Were you no performances till 2024? Is that true?
No, I was joking. That was me.
Oh. Yeah, thanks.
No.
No, everyone's projecting stuff. It'd be a real drag, though. I mean, I know that my gigs have been falling off the calendar every, about 2 to 3 months out. I have one last gig in September, but I don't hold any hopes of it because I canceled the Rose Bowl. The Rose Bowl. And that's epic.
Right.
Yeah.
Will you do like a virtual? Could you do them virtually, Kiki? Or you're not, or maybe not interested?
I do a live stream every Wednesday night.
Oh, cool.
But yes, I could do. This club actually offers virtual concerts, so we may be able to do that. It's just, well, it's the whole conversation, about the virtual, the value of a virtual concert over the value of going to a live performance. And if you want to keep your people interested, I certainly want to play. And then when they go, I think they'll come back to the live venues, of course. We'll be starving for it,
I think so too.
Yeah.
Like, do you monetize? How do you monetize it? I don't know. It's all sorts of questions. Do you offer it as a gift to your? I'm talking about me as like a singer-songwriter as well. When I do it at home at the piano, I'm inviting people in because I want to play and I want to invite people in to enjoy that. That's different from me when I'm doing a concert and we would buy a ticket and that kind of thing. It's a little more organic and more like I'm in it with you. You know what I mean? Like you may having a conversation like this. We're all talking about our fears and our, projections and the things that are good and the things that we're doing and things that were good that came out of this. And then trying to stay positive.
Though we're looking forward to getting you back in front of the orchestra.
Yeah.
I was reminding Brett that we did a concert, Music Under the Stars, in front of City Hall, Pasadena City Hall.
That was amazing.
That was great, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was truly. And not just because it's your birthday, but it was like one of my highlights. This thing with it really was. It was so much fun. I loved it, so I would love to come back. Anytime.
Yeah, we got to do it again.
I think we ought to do a Joni Mitchell thing, though. I think that'd be really fun. Get some of the, I know, who knows, but I'll sing whatever you want.
You do a Joni Mitchell show, right?
I do. I do. I among other things, I've always loved her music, and then for some reason, I just had this strong impulse about 5 years ago to really delve into her music in a way that where I would learn so much and then perform it. Because at the time, and still to this day, there aren't very many people performing it and then performing it well, because it's hard. And so it caused me to start exploring, the guitar more and the dulcimer. And I'm already a pianist, so it was really fun to play her songs on piano. But then to discover all the alternate tunings that she uses and why she had to use them.
Oh, interesting.
Child, her hands were too weak to form regular chords on standard tuning. So she changed the tuning of the strings to create chords that are so complex. But she doesn't even read music, So she would come to the studio, and are you familiar with a lot of her tunes, or do you
I wouldn't say a lot.
So like a song like "Help Me," help me, falling. Completely odd tempo. She shows up with the song, and then her band just has to write their charts around what she brings to the table. And she doesn't know that she's got odd meters and what it is. That's just what she plays, and she won't play it the same way live. She'll come out and play a completely different version. So it's been really fun, and the musicians that we're using love it as well. Grant Geisman's playing guitar, and right now Bernie Dressel's been playing drums for us, and just so talented and so open to play and experiment, and people, the audiences love it. So I think we have the premier Joni Mitchell band. We played Laguna Festival of Arts and lots of different festivals and stuff, and they all got canceled this year.
Yeah, all of us.
Else, I was so heartbroken to hear about the Pops, and then everyone else is sort of fell in behind. But.
So then that must have been fun to put together this show because you could have some creative license to
Absolutely.
kind of make the songs your own, right?
So it's not, it's a tribute, but it's not the kind where, you need to sound or look like her. It's an homage.
Yeah.
And because I'm a singer-songwriter and I love her music, I'm able to pull the way I approach music, especially on piano and sing. My voice lends itself to her voice. It's not a carbon copy, but I can go very high and low. I can kind of just go back and forth with this little, the way she kind of flips up into these different qualities and tones of her voice, I can find in my own voice. So it's not only improved my singing, but I found I have a real, sorry, the cat is kind of like involved in her. I sort of had a natural leaning towards her music, and so I felt strongly that my intuition would be good, and I would change some of the songs. We've rearranged a little bit. Others we stay pretty close, especially on guitar, because those the alternate tunings on Chelsea Morning and Coyote and You Turn Me On my radio. They're just so much fun, and you don't want to change that. It's very creative, and she pulls in so many interesting people. The Mingus record was all, she wrote lyrics to Charles Mingus solos. She has a whole, Good Guy Pork Pie Hat, which is extremely beautiful. I sang that last summer at the Pine Strange when I did my book. I'm pretty infatuated with her, as you can tell.
She's like a creative force of nature.
Yeah, she's a freak.
Kiki, we of course know each other, but can you talk a little bit about before you started working as a pianist singer, what acts you played keyboards for?
Well, I certainly can. I started up. I've always wanted, always played in bands, always played keyboards. Just wanted to play in a band. I really, never was intending on being in front of the band singing as a leader. But I started off actually with the group Chicago back in 1987, and I started off as an offstage keyboard player. And I also handled all of their MIDI gear. So I ran samples. I truncated the samples. I used samples of their voice, their harmonies, to lay in while they were singing. So I did real-time. It was a real-time performance of samples, not pure samples. But there were a couple of sequences that I would figure every so often. But a lot of it was just playing the orchestral parts, live on, Hard Habit to Break. They have such beautiful, orchestrations on their music. Horns. And then just regular, organ parts and piano parts whenever one of the keyboardists can leave their station. So that was great. Except I wasn't on stage. I was behind the drum riser with headphones and a monitor, and then I knew I wanted to be, but that was my first touring job. So I said yes. I mean, I wanted to get onto the main, it's hard to get in the touring. You can't just show up at a manager's office and go, hey, I'm here, I want to play in your band. So I said yes to whatever job was available, and that was happened to be available. I wrote as a crew member. I was in my 20s, and it was an interesting experience as well to be on the road with 18 guys traveling the world and on a bus, and you're like, that's life. So after that, I completely flipped that and joined Al Jarreau in 1989. Now, Al Jarreau had an extraordinary group of musicians, including Ricky Minor, who's now the famous Ricky Minor. He was just a little bit minor, playing the bass back then. But India Davenport was our background singer, and she sings for the Brand New Heavies today. And so that was, and Felicia Collins played guitar. She was in Letterman's band for many years. So that was a really great experience. And then I went on from that point, played solid on the road for about 25 years, and played with, Christopher Goss, Boz Scaggs, Michael McDonald, Patti Austin. Lots of Japanese artists. Tracy Chapman, I did a few tours with her, and just traveled the world. And it was late 80s into the 90s through probably just like, I recently turned away from touring in probably 2013. It started to taper down for me, but the heavy part was while I was in the 90s. And it was great work, really good work.
Great artists. That was
a great artist. Amazing. Exactly. It was a gift. And so when you say, hey, I want to play in a band, that's getting attention. Those are pretty good bands, great musicians, and that's what really excited me, was that interaction, that live interaction that we had. And then all the funny stuff with artists, road life is a whole other world. But at some point, I saw the writing on the wall that my life in touring wasn't gonna. Not only was I becoming less interested in it, I had solo things that I wanted to do. Even though I'd already been making records since the early '90s, I wanted to work on the show that I do for my dad, and I started delving more into a jazz, more into jazz influence. Just as an artist, you don't want to stay in the same spot, your entire life. I mean, nice, it's hard when there's money, I followed the money for sure in the touring world, which is why my records, I make a record like once every 6 years, But I was practical like that, and I'm glad I was.
You mentioned your dad, but our audience doesn't know your dad was the great Patti Austin. And what I'm curious about, was he supportive of your keyboard career? Because he was, of course, very successful with television shows, and there was his daughter running around on the road playing keyboard, for Boz Scaggs. So.
He is a very protective father, and he had 6 girls, and I think when you have girls and you're trying to it's like herding cats or putting back in the tube, Once they're out, and my father was amazing. He started in vaudeville, and he had all this history in New York, and then Hollywood, at MGM when he was contract player. So he was trying so hard to go into a direction of singing jazz, and great like Joe Chapman. He set me up with for lessons when I was in school. But I was a 70s rock and roll. Too, when I'm listening to Alice Cooper, and he's talking about Joe Stafford, and who's he, and so it's very confusing. And so I think he didn't like the fact that I went into rock. I think he would have preferred me to be a jazz singer straight off the bat. I got my degree in opera.
Wow.
Only because I happened to be in the right. They liked my voice. I really wasn't considering a classical vocal career at all. I was there to study piano and study music, and I just choir, and they immediately pulled me in there. I had no idea that I had the qualities of a really good piano.
And Kiki, you were classically trained on the piano as well?
I was classically trained on the piano, but by a guy who jazz and classical music, and he was able to, not a great reader, so he was able to teach me some of these incredible classics, the chord structure and the scales, and my ear is really very good. So I could fake out, and I used to fake out my piano teacher by saying, "Hey, could you play the lesson for me?" And it's recorded. No problem. And I pretend to read it. It's like the John Rubinstein. I've ever heard that story about Arthur Rubinstein's son?
No.
Yeah, John Rubinstein, the actor, is the son of Arthur Rubinstein. Yeah, who's my favorite pianist of all time. He studied piano, obligatory, because that was the family business, right? To learn to be a classical pianist. And then one day, his father asked him to play for his friend. I don't know if they're real lofty musicians, and then asked him to transpose it. I have, put another piece of music in front of me, says I can't read, So, yeah. Anyway, I studied classically. I studied a lot of classical voice that I'd never been for college, and I fell in love with it. But I was torn between the opportunity to go back to pop music and an offer to go out on the road to Chicago, which is completely the antithesis of what my classmates were doing in Europe, and doing competitions and festivals. And I went on the road and joined the circus. Of course, now my mother is going, what? What? So they didn't really approve of my choices. They knew I had talent. They just didn't like to see me behind the stage. They thought I should have been on it. Mm-hmm. And me in my rebellious state with my dad being so famous, really didn't want to be a part of that. My dad's career or the name. I wanted to do it on my own and explore what it is I wanted to do. as opposed to doing it because there were opportunities there. I'm glad I did it. And then I came around and made my record. I got all these jobs on my own, and now it's come full circle. Now I'm doing a beautiful show where I'm on stage, I'm acting, I'm dancing, I'm singing, and I wrote it. And so it's all good.
Well, your tribute show to your dad is fantastic, and I've seen your Joni Mitchell show too, of course. But they're two different shows completely.
Completely.
But you have it all covered, and it's obviously because of all your training, but it's also because of your ears and what were you getting at home though? Were you what kind of stuff was being played around the house?
Everything classical, everything musical.
Yeah.
My mother was an actress, and she was graduated from Vassar in German. So her passion was so. Whether I liked it or not, I was going to get a dose of musical theater.
Other thing I want to talk about is your ranch and horses and your equine rescue and things other than music that have nothing to do with the Pasadena Pops, but have to do with you.
Well, I live on the ranch I grew up on, and we bought my family bought the place in 1963. It's a beautiful little oasis, Santa Monica County. And I grew up riding horses and showing horses and having a great love for them. I left them, I went to college, had my career, and 20 years later, felt I needed to have them back in my life, but I didn't want to compete. That was, I wanted to do something different. So I discovered something called natural horsemanship, which is basically getting into the horses world and understanding them through the language based on the herd, how they interact. Like the dog whisperer, but it's the horse whisperer. It's all interacting with horses in their world. But you get them to do some pretty amazing things. You just don't do it through aggression. So I started to rescue horses that I thought I was going to rehabilitate and then place. And 9 horses later, I was unable to let them go. I'm not a show barn, and I all the people that come and learn from the ground up. And if you've ever done Liberty or seen Cavalier, the show Cavalier, with Cirque du Soleil with horses, you can walk into an arena and you can move the horse around just by your energy from your body. So they'll move away from you, and they'll come towards you, they'll go this direction, they'll go that direction, they'll go center. It's really beautiful. And when you learn to be like that with a horse, and then you start to add the pieces that you would use to ride them, there's a lot less pulling and kicking to go, and it's very harmonious. It's a lot like the Avatar, when they got on their horses and they plugged in and they just took off. So that becomes a sort of a metaphor for life. If only got light and easy in our life and go with the flow like things like right now in the pandemic, and I don't imagine there is more worse than not in a state of self-reflection. What am I doing? Where am I going? What is food? How do I feel? Am I okay being alone and isolated? I mean, how are we evolving? How is Canada evolving right now? I think great connection to the outdoors is a big part of our public. So I'm really blessed to be here, and I'm grateful because I get to play, I get to do this, I get to sit in with the horse. People are really responding in a lovely way.
Kiki, how does, there's probably not one answer to this, but how does a horse get in need of rescue? Is there does someone, I just don't understand how a horse would end up.
Well, that's a good question. There are a few different ways, but mostly economic distress is the big one.
So an owner would just
would relinquish the horse because they can't afford it anymore. So where I pick up my horses is I actually have a friend who runs a rescue in Central California, and she goes to the feedlots. And the feedlots are where they hold horses for slaughter. They hold them for auction, and they auction them off by the pound. Now there are really nice auctions that auction off, like the big jumpers, and those are in Kentucky, or race horses, things like that. But these are for horses that are broken down or unwanted, and they just need to turn them over very fast. And they're out in Nevada and different places. So she picks them up, and she finds homes for them. And I started getting involved with the rescue. Most of them have come from like a breeder breeding too many horses and then running out of money, and they just leave them in a pasture.
Oh,
and
wow.
they call the feedlots. They pick them up. I've got 30 horses. I can't take care of anymore. So my last 3 came from a feedlot. Like I came from on their way to a feedlot.
Wow.
Of them were in the lot and were rescued out of the lot. And then there's one other way I got my horses, which was through a drug industry. They were byproducts of a drug industry called Premarin. Now, Premarin is hormone replacement. We just switched the whole dynamic of the show, but Premarin is a hormone replacement for women going through menopause. It's rich in estrogen. So what they do is they collect estrogen-rich urine from a pregnant mare, and then the mare has a foal, and the foal is unwanted, mostly to a feedlot, unless they can sell or adopt the whole horse out. It's a whole weird thing.
Wow.
Anyway, it's I'm just really grateful that I've given these horses a home and a purpose. The reason I have them, they've really helped me grow as a human being in so many different, emotionally, mentally, physically, spiritually. And I share it with people who, especially now, have no connection. I mean, we can't go out and do what we normally do, but we can still be with us. And so I've offered that experience to my clients, and more people are coming out now. They want to do something, and they're in a state of reflecting on what's really important. Wow.
That's great.
Beautiful. Wow.
My relationship with horses, I go up to a horse and the horse goes, what do you want? What do you want, city boy?
Practice some safe stuff.
So, Kiki, before you go, do you have any quarantine creative projects that you're going to be working on?
I have a new record that I'm starting.
Oh, nice.
I did it. We did it last year, and I was going to release it at the Laguna Festival of Arts in August, but since I won't be there, I'm going to release one song a month until it's available. So I'll just be getting prepped for that. I've got some video that I'm going to edit and trying to figure out how to creatively present it to people. And then I've edited. I did my dad's show, which is a tribute to my dad was you're editing right now and making that, figuring out a way, because I believe we'll get back in the theater.
Oh, yeah.
And
yes.
I think it's such a great opportunity, even if it's a year or two from now, look for the get interested in that show, and by offering availability, to watch it in its entirety. We did it at Theater West we got it at the Theater West last fall, and it looks beautiful. So I'm hoping to get people involved in that from the production investment standpoint. And that's going to be pretty busy. And the horses are practicing and continuing to write. And it's a great time to be a creative artist and having all this time. So we have to stay positive that there will be a place for us to go at the end of it all.
Oh, there definitely will be.
Kiki, thank you for doing this and spending the time with us and telling us about, your career and what you're doing and your work with horses. It's fantastic.
Thank you for having me, Larry.
Thank you so much.
I'm so pleased. And we got to get you in front of the orchestra again soon. That's next.
All right, guys.
Okay.
All right, stay safe.
Thank you, Kiki. Nice to meet you.
Yeah. Bye.
What it is. yellow basket, tucking on down the avenue without a single thing. She went pegging all around till she spotted all the town. She took it, she took my yellow basket, and if she doesn't bring it back, I think I should. She took my yellow basket, and if she doesn't bring it back, I think that I shall die. Oh gee, I wonder where the basket could be. Oh dear, I wish that little girl I could see. If she doesn't bring it back, I think that I should die. No, 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 no. No, 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 no. No, 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 no. Just the yellow basket. Now when I say so fine, I'm gonna say it one more time. Myself and your return is a regular crime. Pretty. I think you too.